works every time. I love it. Good morning, people. My name is Bert Meek. I will be your worship associate this morning. This is Sunday, April 21st, for those of you who are watching from afar, and can watch the service whenever they darn well please. Reverend Bethany Russell Lowell, our settled minister, will be conducting the service today. There are no formal announcements, at least none that have been given to me, but rumors are abundant that we may well be having the Sunday service back in Holland next Sunday, but those are only rumors. They are not yet confirmed. You will all be kept posted as far as how things go with that. Now, although COVID cases persist throughout the country, Pima County, our own risk level remains low, so based on our policy, there's no longer masks required for you to wear. You're obviously free to wear them if you wish, always just fine. If you're not feeling well, we encourage you to wear them, or even better, watch us remotely. The last poll we took was back in November 1921, those of you who can remember back then, and we had an amazing level of percentage folks, like 95%, who were committed to staying vaccinated at that point in time. And we hope and trust that that level of commitment is continued, particularly for the most vulnerable among us. We owe that to them, we owe that to ourselves, to one another. Want to extend a special welcome to our online visitors. For those of you who are here in person for the first time, we have a welcome center in the back. You're please encouraged to go there after the service. We have a little yellow form to fill out if you want to stay in touch with us, and that allows us to stay in touch with you. At the end of the service, we always have social hour. Today, it's enhanced. So what that means, they've got quiche, they've got other fine things, more than just the usual good stuff. But with an enhanced goodies comes an enhanced wish for donations. So I'll put a plug in for them that you don't need to, but if you wish to, it's always welcome. Down this hallway and to the left, we have 2 unisex bathrooms, one of which is wheelchair accessible. Now, as we move more deeply into the space of worship, let us all remember that our community strives to be as varied as the blooms on the Sonoran Desert in order for us to better reflect the wonderful diversity with which Southern Arizona is blessed. Now, when I invite you to respond, please say, "We welcome you." Not yet? I haven't invited yet. Just about, though. Whether you walked or rolled or skipped into Goddard this morning, there you go. Whatever income bracket you're in, yes. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whatever cultural or ethnic background you claim, and lastly, whomever you love, however you identify your gender, and whatever way you choose to express it, we welcome you. Reverend Bethany.
Well, first, I will confirm the rumor, make it a rumor no longer. Yes, thank you for the drum roll. We will be in person worshiping in Holland Sanctuary next week. Yay! Your worship associates and Jamelia and I have been planning some rituals to invite us into the space. So if you are able to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early next week so that we can get through the rituals, the first set will be out here on the patio. Come a little bit early. If you can only get here at 10:30, if that's when your bus comes or that's when you can arrive, fine. We'll make room for you. But if you're able to arrive a little early, please plan to do that and come to the patio first. And today in worship, we will be exploring a draft covenant, which you should have in your hands, the right way to read. I want to tell you a little bit about this before we launch into our prelude. A team drafted a covenant for this congregation in January and February 2020, based on feedback collected from the congregation at that point in time. And then what happened? The COVID pandemic happened. And this covenant remained in draft form as we waited to get back together in person, and then it remained in draft form a little bit longer. This fall, your board and I asked this newly formed Healthy Congregations team to take the draft to completion, to get your feedback on it, and to move it towards a vote at annual meeting. And they did a great job. So this covenant you have in your hands is the product of 4 years and 2 teams' work, and will be on the annual meeting agenda for you to vote on May 5th. And the Healthy Congregations team is considering this covenant to be a living document, which means that it can and will be changed in successive annual meetings as we learn and grow as a congregation. And we want you today to prepare to consider your vote on this covenant. So throughout the service, we will be offering readings and music to help you deepen into and reflect on the different parts of this covenant. After each reading, we will have a few seconds, less than a minute, of silent reflection, so you could take some notes or think quietly about how that reading reflects on those lines of the covenant. And then, near the end of the service, you will have an opportunity to turn to a neighbor and discuss 2 questions, and I'll repeat them again then. The 2 questions are, how is this covenant asking me to stretch? And how is this covenant offering me ease, safety, and trust? Danielle, take it away. Our words for our call to worship are from the Reverend Dr. Kendall L.R. Gibbons. And these words answer the question, what is a covenant? And why do we need this? So if those are questions you have, hear these words from Reverend Gibbons. Our communities of memory and promise are founded upon covenants because we all need a defense against the impulse of immediate feelings that challenge our best intentions. It is necessary to be reminded from time to time of what you said you were going to do and what you really want, over and above the lure of momentary comfort. Covenant is our word for the solemn promises that counteract the randomness of a future in which anything and everything is possible, by committing us in advance to certain relationships and values. We do this because what we build with intention, and even with difficulty, is more satisfying in the long run than the pleasures that we happen to encounter. We do it in time-consuming rituals, invoking powers that we scarcely know how to name, because we are seeking some way to give our lives the density and dignity and depth that we suspect with longing might yet be possible.
It's now time for our ritual of chalice lighting. We have a chalice lighter volunteer. You can come up right now. It's great. And those of you at home, if you have a candle or a chalice, please get ready to light that along with us. Now you'll see in today's service, we're going to keep weaving in lines from the covenant, and we've woven that in for this as well. So right at the very top of the handout you had, it says, "Here we welcome diversity. Together we celebrate you for who you are and support your spiritual choice." So now join me in these words that are going to celebrate the next line, the next slide, written by the Reverend Kimberly Ann Tomzak Carlson. Read these together with me, and then you can light as we go along. "As inheritors of our ancestors' legacy, we hold these stories tenderly, gleaning wisdom from diverse journeys, united in hope for the future. Guide us in trust in love as we kindle this flame together." We're going to hold these words up for a little while to think about them for another minute, and then Brian will lead us in song.
And now would you rise in body or spirit and sing "Break Not the Circle." 323 in the gray hymnal. The words will be projected on the screen in the front. We'll just be singing the first two verses. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes embraces all of living. The hunger at His love that comes to life, where words of freedom are refueled spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will love human bonds remain
The second set of bullet points in that covenant you have in front of you say, "Here we recognize the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Together we create a trusting and respectful space where all are heard and honored." Our first reading is inspired by these words. This is "Kindling the Spark" by Reverend Connie Simon. She writes, "I love watching people. While eating at a local restaurant, though, I saw a parent criticize their child's artwork because they drew a car in the sky and cars don't fly. The child was crushed. At the table on the other side of me, two friends were ordering lunch, and one who was very thin told the other who was not it was no wonder she couldn't get a date since she was ordering a cheeseburger. The larger woman blushed, crimson red, hung her shoulders, and told the waiter she'd have the lettuce wedge instead, with dressing on the side. Every day we hear how we would be smarter, look better, attract the mate of our dreams, or otherwise be fulfilled in life if only we would do things a certain way, avoid the food, do the exercise, or wear these clothes. These messages are everywhere. The shows we watch, social media, advertisements at work, and when we gather with friends and community. And telling us how much, quote unquote, better we could be, these messages also tell us that we aren't pretty enough, smart enough, good enough, just as we are. Sure, there's always room for improvement, but each of us has value and potential, just as we are. She goes on, my heart hurt for the woman sadly eating her lettuce wedge. I wanted to hug her and tell her she's beautiful. Did her friend unknowingly plant the seeds of an eating disorder? Did the parent at the restaurant discourage a budding engineer who might someday design flying cars? Or an artist whose imaginative work could delight millions? What if we encouraged and celebrated each other for who we are? What if instead of criticizing, we challenged with love, affirming the good we see in one another? When the parent and child got up to leave, I noticed the child let their drawing fall to the floor. I picked it up. I made a point of saying they couldn't possibly have meant to leave such a cool drawing behind, and asked the child to tell me about it. Their face lit up at the little bit of encouragement. I noticed, and so did the parents. As the parents took the picture, I smiled and suggested that they hang it on the refrigerator when they got home. We'll take a few seconds of quiet reflection before moving to joys and sorrows.
I was wondering in that situation if I would have had the guts enough to go to the parents and say, oh, I'm sure you dropped this. You don't want to lose it. It's time now for our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. Remember, each and every one of us carries both joy and sadness inside. How we may or may not express these feelings doesn't mean that they're not there. Our emotions are very real and very present for each and every one of us. And we need a place and a time to honor those feelings. This over here is our shared bowl, which we use for joys and sorrows. Inside, you'll see large rocks that signify the joys and sorrows that we share collectively. These rocks are from the earth, which is strong, more than strong enough to hold your pain, hold your joy, hold your sadness, hold your anger. The earth can hold that. Now, in just a minute, it will also hold the smaller stones and pebbles that you place there to represent your individual joys and sorrows. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining but a scarce resource. Please let us remember those walking through the desert right now without access to water. To symbolize that, we pour water from this jug, representing those jugs left behind by our ministry partner, No More Deaths. See the decorations? They do that to invite the migrants coming across the desert to show the water is safe and a gift. Let us take a moment also to remember those desert people who first came to this place in which we all live and whose land was stolen in successive acts of displacement and genocide. So we honor the Hohokam, the Yavapai, the Tohono O'odham, the Yaqui, as well as the many indigenous people who no longer exist here in Arizona. Now, for those of you who wish to share the joy and sorrow with us online, you can go to Menti and enter the code you see up there, 5667-2245. If you're here in Goddard and you want to use Menti, Brian Moon will offer his services to help put your thoughts on that. If you're here in person and you have a joy or sorrow that you wish to express, you're welcome to come up in just a minute down the middle aisle, place a stone in the water to symbolize those emotions, and then return along either side back to your seat. For the rest of us, while this is happening, please remain in quiet contemplation of your own feelings and in support of those who participate in this ritual. Please come forward, Daniel.
Read our mentee before hearing our words for prayer. I have learned that my brother's illness is not curable. He will be discharged home from the hospital with hospice. Oh, sending prayers of love and comfort to you and your brother friend. Quiet joy that our Yuma UU Fellowship has survived and as an official congregation for another year. Fabulous news. Congratulations, Yuma. Thoughts and prayers to my friend Jean and his husband David, who passed about 30 minutes ago after a long illness. Somehow life must now be reconstructed. Happy to be back in Holland, but I may miss Goddard a bit. Who knew? Today, I am grateful for the opportunity to go to Florida next month and visit my incarcerated daughter, who I haven't seen in 3 years. Traveling mercies and sweet love for that reunion, friend. The third set of bullet points in this covenant say, here we practice conscious reflection and honesty with empathy. Together, we embrace personal growth within ourselves and this community. Our words for prayer are inspired by these words, so at this point, please join me in a spirit of meditation, contemplation, reflection, prayer, whatever is your own style, and hear these words called Map of the Journey in Progress by Victoria Safford. Reverend Safford says the word here a number of times in this prayer, and if you feel comfortable and it feels good to you, I invite you to consider where that here lies in your body, maybe even touch that place where it lies. If that invitation felt totally off the wall, do what you do. Reverend Safford writes, here is where I found my voice and chose to be brave. Here's a place where I forgave someone against my better judgment, and I survived that. And unexpectedly, amazingly, I became wiser. Here's where I was once forgiven, was ready for once in my life to receive forgiveness and to be transformed. And I survived that also. I lived to tell the tale. This is the place where I said no more loudly than I'd thought I ever could, and everybody stared. And I said no loudly anyway, because I knew it must be said. And those staring settled down into harmless, ineffective grumbling, and over me they had no power anymore. Here's a time and here's another when I laid down my fear and walked right on into it, right up to my neck into that roiling water. Here's where cruelty taught me something. Here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion and knew it for the miracle it was, the requirement it is. It was a trembling time. And here, much later, is where I returned the blessing, clumsily. It wasn't hard, but I was unaccustomed. It cycled around, and as best I could, I sent it back on out, past the gift along. This circular motion around and around has no apparent end. Here's a place, a murky puddle, where I have stumbled more than once and fallen. I don't know yet what to learn there. On this site, I was outraged, and the rage sustains me still. It clarifies my seeing. And here's where something caught me. A warm breeze in late winter, bird song in late summer. Here's where I was told that something was wrong with my eyes and that I see the world strangely, and here's where I said, yes, I know I walk in beauty. Here is where I began to look with my own eyes and listen with my ears and sing my own song, shaky as it is. And here is where, if by surgeon's knife, my heart was opened up, and here and here and here and here. These are the landmarks of conversion.
Would you please respond in song? Hymn 1008 from the Teal Hymnal. The words will be on the screen. When our heart is in a holy place. We'll sing the first 2 verses. Stand in your chairs. When our heart is in the holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the
of our offertory this morning is Share the Plate Sunday. We've had votes amongst the congregation to select agencies within the city of Tucson and environments who do responsible, good work. And we want to reinforce that as by sharing part of our collection today. Remember that generosity is a spiritual practice. Share the Plate is one of the ways in which we act on that. Today, the ministry that we will recognize is Youth on Their Own, often using the abbreviation of YOTO, Y-O-T-O. Now, they will receive half of the amount of all checks made out during the collection today. If you make it out to UUCT, but you have Share the Plate written on the memo line, they will get half of that, as well as half of all cash donations. If you don't write it on the memo line, they won't get that. If you give online, just please make sure that you've included Share the Plate in your donation. Now, in just a minute, we're going to have Brittany Smith, who's going to tell us more about Youth on Their Own. She is their Senior Development Manager for Communications. She's right over here. Please give her a warm UUCT welcome. She asked us first to show a video, and then she will speak to you a few more minutes about Youth on Their Own. So, cue the video.
Since 1986, Youth on Their Own has been helping Pima County youth experiencing homelessness graduate from high school and pursue their dreams. Each year, YOTO enrolls over 1,500 local youth. Our program focuses on 3 basic areas. First, YOTO incentivizes youth to attend school by providing direct financial support. YOTO youth can earn a monthly stipend contingent upon their attendance, just for going to school. Every year, YOTO provides over $1 million of direct financial support to youth. Second, Youth on Their Own makes sure that all of YOTO youth's basic needs are met. At our on-site mini mall, youth can get free food, hygiene products, school supplies, and more. Finally, YOTO offers youth much-needed guidance. Just one caring adult can make an immense difference in the life of a young person. Because of the support of liaisons, staff, volunteers, and community members like you, thousands of youth experiencing homelessness have been able to graduate from high school and build the lives they deserve for themselves and their families. Thank you for being a part of our YOTO family.
Good morning. So I just wanted to add a couple things real quick to what was in the video. So currently we are serving over 1,600 youth experiencing homelessness across Pima County. And we're approaching graduation season, which is always a big time for us because our goal is that every youth that goes through our program gets their diploma and graduates high school. Last year, we had 331 high school graduates, which was a graduation rate of 86%. And we couldn't do what we do without the support of the community and folks like you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Following our service, Brittany has been kind enough to be over there. She'll be over there. She's got more information about Youth on Their Own if you want to show that. If perhaps you know folks who have participated through that program, she'd be glad to hear all that. So, however you participated in today's service, physically, remotely, remember our congregation depends upon you for your love, your time, and your financial support. For those of you here in person, the ushers in just a minute will be passing collection baskets around. If you're watching from afar, please send a check to our church office if you wish. You can also give online at uuctucson.org/donate or text. Anyway, text the number 833-361-5796. So now, please let us give freely and generously an offering that will sustain and strengthen our shared religious community. This is a community of hope, of memory, of faith, and of love, because we are now the keepers of the flame, and the flame burns for justice. It burns for the dream of a beloved and a radically welcoming community. It burns for the vision of a world made whole. Thank you for all that you were able to give this morning. Danielle. Danielle, thank you. And thank you for what you all contributed this morning. There are two more bullets in the covenant, and I'll read each one separately with some additional words to help you think about the concept. The next one on the list there you have is, here we remember that we are capable of causing harm and of being harmed. And together we strive to forgive each other and ourselves with loving kindness. This reading was inspired by these particular words. It comes from the Reverend Megan Visser, entitled, "This is a Saving Faith." She writes, "I had dreams about anywhere else but here, but our faith kept me close. I believed that I had done something to deserve it, but our faith shouted no. I tried to imagine that this thing had never happened, but our faith reminded, yes, grief is very real. I thought that I might die, but our faith nurtured my life. I wondered if I was worthy of love, but our faith kept loving me back. I found it impossible to forget, but our faith said, please forgive yourself first. I did not know that there were others like me, but our faith sobbed, there are many." Let's take a little bit of time to think about those words and think about that line in the covenant. And then I'll read one more. Please. Thank you. The final bullet point in the covenant reads, "Here we realize our community is stronger when we participate. Together we work to bring more equity and justice to our church community and to the wider world." So these words in our covenant were inspired by something written by Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, entitled "The Essential Work of Justice and Liberation for All." She writes, By no means are we Unitarian Universalists perfect. We often fail as much as we succeed. Yet even when we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we return to this essential work of justice and liberation for all. We do the work best when we remember that church is what it is and what it is not. Church is not a place to go and hide. It is not a place to get away from the world. It is not a place where we get to pretend that somehow the lives we live and our particular situations are really not very complex. They are actually often confusing and sometimes quite depressing. Church is a place where we stand with one another. We look the world in the eye, we attempt to see it clearly, and we gather strength to face what we see with courage and even with joy. So, take one more minute to reflect on these.
And now I invite you to turn to a neighbor or two. It could be groups of 2 or 3 as you see fit. And you will have 5 minutes to discuss those 2 questions. How is this covenant asking me to stretch? And how is this covenant offering me ease, safety, and trust? Turn to a friend or two. Make sure no one's left out. Look around you if you would. And discuss for 5 minutes.